Hey everyone. So today's video is basically the part 8 of the final photos with disturbing backstories. However, the unique thing about this part is that this specific part can also be described as moments before disaster. Because sadly, majority of the photos in this specific part were taken mere seconds before something tragic occurred. And I mean, the video is already an hour long, so let's not waste any more time on this intro, and let's start the video with the very first photo. The Burning Man incident. This strange, unexplained, and tragic incident occurred during the 2017 annual Burning Man Festival in Nevada's Black Rock Desert. This festival, celebrated for its artistic expression, communal ethos, and grand rituals, took a dark turn when Aaron Joel Mitchell, a 41-year-old attendee, ran directly into the inferno of the festival's iconic centerpiece, the Burning Man effigy. The climactic moment of the festival involves the ritual burning of a massive wooden structure, symbolizing release and transformation. This event is typically a joyous and reflective gathering for attendees, who surround the blaze in a mixture of celebration and contemplation. However, on this occasion, the atmosphere shifted to horror as Mitchell broke through several layers of security and sprinted toward the flames. Despite frantic efforts by security personnel and nearby festival goers to stop him, he disappeared into the fire before anyone could intervene effectively. Rescue teams, at great personal risk, entered the blaze to retrieve Mitchell. He was pulled from the fire and rushed to a medical facility on site before being airlifted to a regional hospital. Unfortunately, his injuries were too severe and he passed away shortly after. The incident left the Burning Man community and wider audiences stunned. Many questioned why Mitchell chose to run into the flames. Initial assumptions leaned towards substance influence, as psychedelic drugs and alcohol are not uncommon at such festivals. However, toxicology reports later revealed that Mitchell had no alcohol in his system at the time of the event, leaving his motivations unclear. Some speculated it was a deliberate act of self-harm, while others wondered if it might have been an impulsive or symbolic action driven by emotional distress or a misunderstood attempt at transcendence. A Polish couple takes a selfie of Cabo de Roca over the Atlantic Ocean. Unfortunately, that was their last photo. The two fell hundreds of meters into the abyss in front of their children. On the evening of September 20th, 2015, life at the Razo household in Mosul, Iraq, carried on like any other. 61-year-old Basim Razo relaxed in the living room while his wife, Mayada, slept beside him. In the kitchen, their 21-year-old daughter, Tuka, lit a sparkler and posed for a cheerful photo. This is the last time she would be seen alive. The snapshot captured a pure moment of happiness, Tuka holding the sparkler high, her face beaming with joy. However, her happiness was interrupted when she was scolded for lighting the sparkler indoors, prompting her to head outside. What followed turned this ordinary evening into a scene of unimaginable devastation. Just hours later, as the family slept, their home was obliterated by a coalition airstrike conducted by Dutch F-16 fighter jets. The attack reduced the house to rubble, killing Tuka, her mother Mayada, Basim's brother Mohanad, and his nephew Najib. Basim himself miraculously survived but sustained severe injuries. The Dutch military, part of the international coalition against ISIS, claimed the house was a suspected car bomb factory. This intelligence was tragically wrong. The Razos had no ties to ISIS or the ongoing conflict. They were an ordinary family, caught in the crossfire of a war they had no part in. For Basim, the aftermath was a harrowing journey of grief and a fight for justice. In 2020, after years of relentless advocacy, the Dutch government made history by agreeing to compensate Basim for the devastating loss of his family and home. The undisclosed settlement was the first of its kind, acknowledging civilian casualties from coalition airstrikes against ISIS. While the Netherlands maintained it bore no legal liability, the gesture was significant. Oliver Park, 51, while trying to take a selfie while jumping on Machu Picchu, slipped on the rocks and the fall had a tragic end. This photo, taken just moments before the tragic crash, shows singer Jenny Rivera and her companions aboard a Learjet 25 jet that would soon meet a fatal end. On December 9, 2012, the small jet took off from Monterrey, Mexico, at approximately 3:30 a.m., bound for Mexico City's Toluca International Airport. The flight was expected to take just over an hour. However, disaster struck only 10 minutes after takeoff. The passengers included Jenny Rivera, a celebrated Mexican-American singer, and 4 others: her publicist, lawyer, makeup artist Jacob Yabale, who posted the selfie to Instagram, and stylist. The jet was also manned by 2 crew members. Shortly after takeoff, contact with the aircraft was lost. The plane is believed to have crashed into mountainous terrain approximately 62 miles south of Monterrey. The wreckage of the plane was discovered later, scattered across a remote area. Unfortunately, there were no survivors. The cause of the crash remains a mystery, though speculation has centered on possible mechanical failure or human error. This 17-year-old climber fell 1,000 feet to his death while attempting to climb Flatiron in Boulder, Colorado. He did not have any climbing equipment with him. On Monday, April 15th, at approximately 2:50 p.m., just over 4 hours into the race, the first of 2 bombs exploded near the finish line of the Boston Marathon. This image, taken from the NBC broadcast of the race, shows the flash of the explosion and the final split second of normalcy before the area turned into what witnesses described as a war zone. Here's a story of the runner nearest to the explosion seen in this image. In front of us, there was a flash of glass and smoke that came across where we were walking on the sidewalk. Miss Carmona and her husband, Paul, work on the organizing committee of the Austin Marathon. She ran the Boston Marathon in 2011, but this year was supporting Paul, who was raising money for Champions for Children to aid sick children in Central Texas. Despite their proximity to the blast, she and her friend Amy Birdie were barely injured. Soviet guerrillas executing a traitor behind German lines in 1944. The Tinder addict. At first glance, this picture might seem like a snapshot of a happy couple, but the reality is far darker. Warina, a tourist from New Zealand, was visiting Australia when she decided to use Tinder to connect with locals. This led her to meet Gable Tosti, a Queensland resident. After matching on the app, the two eventually ended up at Tosti's apartment. However, at some point during the night, the situation took a disturbing turn. Reports suggest that Warina became so terrified of Tosti that she contemplated climbing over the edge of his 14th floor balcony to escape. Tragically, she lost her footing and fell to her death. Tosti was later charged with her murder, and the evidence against him was deeply troubling. In an audio recording captured on his phone, Tosti could be heard saying, "You are lucky I haven't chucked you off the balcony, you psycho little." Known for boasting about having over 260 Tinder hookups, Tosti's reputation as a womanizer further fueled the grim nature of the case. This haunting photo was taken on the same night, just hours before Warina's tragic fall, marking the final moment they were captured together. A man on the last day of his life before dying of cancer. The photographer took a series of photos of her father during the last week of his life. This photo shows him on his last day. This striking photograph from 1853 captures a man named Joseph Avery clinging desperately to a log in the middle of the treacherous Niagara River. Avery had been part of a group of 3 men enjoying a boating trip when their vessel was overcome by the river's powerful current and smashed against a rock. Tragically, his 2 companions were swept away and plunged to their deaths over the waterfall. Avery, however, managed to cling to a log wedged between 2 rocks, holding on for an incredible 18 hours as the relentless current raged around him. Hope arrived in the form of a rescue boat, carefully maneuvered downriver, and Avery successfully climbed aboard. Sadly, his relief was short-lived. The rescue boat capsized almost immediately, hurling Avery into the raging waters. He was carried over the falls, meeting the same fate as his companions in one final, devastating moment. Shannon Nunez took this photo before jumping from a cliff. Nunez was not trying to commit suicide. She was in Hawaii on a popular cliff diving spot. After jumping off this cliff, she got caught in the current and drowned. Catherine, an Emmy award-winning editor known for her work on hit TV shows like Game of Thrones and movies such as Divergent, had a promising career ahead of her. In 2015, she traveled to South Africa to volunteer at a game reserve, dedicating her time to wildlife conservation. However, during a break from her duties, she decided to visit a nearby safari park, a decision that would sadly lead to her death. While on the safari, a seemingly calm female lion approached the vehicle Catherine was in. Reports suggest she rolled down her window to take a photo, believing there was no immediate danger. Witnesses observed the lion's approach with no cause for alarm. Then, without warning, the lioness lunged at the car, biting Catherine. Blood dripped from the predator's mouth as it initially walked away, leaving bystanders to believe the attack had ended. But the lioness turned back, leaped into the vehicle again, and launched a second fatal attack. Catherine had no chance of escape and tragically died at the scene. This haunting photo, taken by passengers in a car behind her, shows the moments before the horrifying event unfolded. The man on the left died of a drug overdose minutes after the photo was taken. He was found dead in the bathroom of the bar. On February 17, 2021, a young girl named Felicia Kononchuk posted a message to her TikTok profile. Usually, her account featured lighthearted, child-friendly content for a small audience. But on that day, her post carried a far more ominous tone, foreshadowing a tragic event. While Felicia's father was out running errands, an unsettling series of knocks began at their door. Felicia, home alone with her younger brother, refused to answer. The knocking grew more persistent and aggressive, leaving her frightened. In a desperate attempt to raise awareness and possibly seek help, she uploaded a TikTok video describing the situation. The knocking continued for over an hour. Maintenance workers were present at the property during this time, but they chose to ignore the disturbance, assuming it wasn't their place to intervene. Why Felicia didn't approach them for help remains unclear. Eventually, the knocking ceased, and Felicia received a message from a friend inviting her to the park. Seeking comfort and safety, she agreed to meet her friend. Shortly after, Felicia's father returned home. Moments later, there was a gentle knock on the door. Believing it to be her friend, Felicia opened it, only to find herself face to face with their neighbor. Fear overtook her as she tried to shut the door, but before she could, the man shot her multiple times. Her father rushed to her side, screaming for the maintenance workers to call for help. The neighbor, identified as 33-year-old Vasil Denet, was later revealed to have been on tense terms with the family following recent arguments over noise complaints. Although they had once been on good terms, this strained relationship seemed to be the catalyst for his actions that day. Felicia's tragic death occurred just 15 minutes after she posted her final TikTok video, making her chilling message an eerie precursor to the horrific event. A Turkish grandmother proudly shows off a meal she cooked before having a heart attack. Her family called an ambulance only 9 minutes after taking this photo. This still, taken from video news footage, captures one of the final moments of police officer Stephen Green before his tragic death. In the image, Green is shown alongside a handcuffed suspect on the right, who would soon become his killer. While in the sally port of the jail where the suspect was being held, the unimaginable happened. Despite being cuffed, the suspect managed to stab Green, fatally wounding him. Following the attack, the suspect escaped custody, prompting a manhunt by law enforcement. Not long after, police tracked the fugitive to a hiding spot beneath a home. A tense gunfight erupted between the suspect and officers. The standoff ended when the suspect was fatally shot in the exchange of gunfire, bringing a violent and tragic episode to its close. This is the 31-year-old Deborah Garlick, who was killed during her vacation in Thailand. The same 2004 tsunami killed her, which struck Southeast Asia and killed as many as 230,000 people. This is the last photo of her alive. This photo captures Denise Berdides and her husband Tony smiling together at the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival in Las Vegas. It would tragically become one of the last photos of Denise. The couple, like thousands of others, attended the festival to enjoy a night of music and celebration. However, the event took a horrifying turn when a gunman opened fire from the 32nd floor of the nearby Mandalay Bay Hotel, targeting the crowd of over 22,000 people. The shooting, which became the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history, claimed the lives of 58 people and injured hundreds more. Denise was one of the victims who did not survive the attack. Shortly after this group shot was taken, the boy in the red shirt was killed on a hike by a falling rock. This photo captures members of the U.S. figure skating team posing together with smiles before boarding a plane for Brussels in 1961. The team, along with their coaches, officials, and family members, was traveling to the World Figure Skating Championships in Prague. This moment, filled with hope and excitement, would tragically become their final photo. Shortly after takeoff from New York and a stopover in Belgium, the plane crashed near Brussels, killing all 73 people on board. The tragedy devastated the figure skating community, wiping out an entire generation of American talent. It led to the cancellation of the championships that year. The young man in the middle holding the bottle was murdered by gang members just after this photo was taken, on the night of his 21st birthday, the 17th of December 2017. Sadly, he wasn't affiliated with any gangs whatsoever. He was just caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Cherish Periwinkle's story is a heartbreaking cautionary tale about trust and the dangers of predators. On June 21, 2013, 8-year-old Cherish and her family were out shopping in Jacksonville, Florida, when they encountered a man named Donald James Smith at a Dollar General store. Smith, a stranger to the family, offered to help them, claiming he would buy them clothes and food. He appeared kind and generous, earning the trust of Cherish's mother, Rain Periwinkle, who was trying to provide for her children. Smith convinced Rain to accompany him to a nearby Walmart, promising to purchase everything they needed. While at Walmart, he continued his ruse, acting as though he intended to help the family. After some time, he offered to take Cherish to the McDonald's located inside the store, claiming he would get her a cheeseburger. Surveillance footage captured Smith walking hand in hand with Cherish as they left the store together. Tragically, this was the last time Cherish was seen alive. Smith abducted Cherish, taking her away in his van. When Rain realized her daughter was missing, she immediately contacted authorities. A massive search effort began, but the worst fears were confirmed the next morning when Cherish's body was found. The devastating loss left her family and the community in mourning. Donald Smith, who had a history of criminal behavior, was arrested shortly after. His trial revealed the details of his actions, and the evidence against him was undeniable. In 2018, he was found guilty of Cherish's abduction and murder and was sentenced to death. Last image of a woman at her baby shower. She died 5 days later in a car crash. She had been complaining about feeling contractions. Her mother believes she had a shocking contraction, but maybe she went into labor or her water broke. Who knows? But whatever happened, she swerved viciously while driving and slid into a telephone pole and died instantly. In 2022, 22-year-old Gan Swang was living out a dream that many aspire to. He was a successful social media influencer. His journey began with documenting his experiences traveling around the world, capturing the beauty of diverse cultures and customs. At first, these videos were for his personal collection, but over time, they became the foundation of a social media empire. Gan's adventures took a pivotal turn when he arrived in Africa. The continent captivated him. He connected deeply with the locals, embraced their customs, and even found a girlfriend. Inspired by his experiences, he decided to share them online. He created a TikTok account called Chubby Goes to Africa, where he and his girlfriend explored African cuisines and traditions while showcasing the people they met along the way. The account quickly went viral, and Gan amassed an audience of over 5 million followers. Riding on this success, he built a content team to help him create and manage his platform. For most, this new fame brought excitement and opportunities, but not everyone on the team shared in the harmony. One team member, 32-year-old Fang Zhang, stood out for his strained relationship with the others. Unlike Gan, who was charismatic and easygoing, Fang was known to make others feel awkward and uncomfortable. Despite the tension, Gan encouraged Fang to stay with the group, but as conflicts grew, Fang was eventually let go. Surprisingly, Fang accepted the decision without incident and went on to build his own social media presence, finding moderate success with similar travel-themed content. However, tensions reignited over a financial dispute. According to Fang, while Gan was visiting China, he gave him $1,500 to buy an iPhone, a purchase Fang claimed was impossible to make in Africa. Gan remained silent on the matter, but Fang began making public accusations, claiming Gan and his team harassed him by sending tampered meals and vandalizing his property. While these claims were unsubstantiated, Gan's cryptic remark during a trip to Nepal, "I've come to beat him up," raised suspicions. On December 4th, 2022, during Gan's visit to Nepal, he live-streamed himself walking through the streets of Kathmandu. Unbeknownst to him, danger lurked nearby. Seconds into the stream, screams echoed as Fang emerged from the shadows and attacked Gan, stabbing him repeatedly in the back and stomach. Gan collapsed on the street, his life slipping away. Fang didn't flee, but instead stood over Gan's dying body, berating him. He wanted to ensure that Gan understood who had won in the end. Following the brutal murder, Fang was arrested and taken into custody. The shocking event marked a tragic end to Gan's journey and left his millions of followers mourning the loss of a young man whose life was cut short by unresolved animosity. A Norwegian mountaineer couple photographed on K2 in the Himalayas. A few minutes later, an avalanche left his wife a widow. Next, we have Jane Wicker, an aviation daredevil with a deep passion for wing walking, performing stunts on airplanes mid-flight. Tragically, her enthusiasm for this thrilling yet perilous activity led to her untimely death. This photo captures Jane in what would be her final performance. Spectators initially noted that everything seemed to be going smoothly. Jane executed her stunts with her usual confidence and precision, but suddenly, without any warning, the plane she was performing on tilted sharply and crashed into the ground. Both Jane and the pilot lost their lives in the devastating accident. Before the event, Jane reassured the crowd that everything would go according to plan, expressing confidence in the safety of her routine. Sadly, her words proved hauntingly untrue as the day took a tragic turn, leaving onlookers in shock and grief over the unexpected catastrophe. Martin Luther King was killed on April 4, 1968, on the balcony of the hotel where he was staying. This photo was taken moments before the murder. Inquisitor was a popular TikTok creator known for his cosplay as Ghost from Call of Duty and his kind-hearted personality. Unlike the stoic character he portrayed, Inquisitor brought warmth and positivity to his content, using his growing platform to inspire and spread kindness. As his audience expanded, Inquisitor hired a female editor to help him manage his workload. He often praised her work with phrases like, "I love her," or "I want to marry her," intending them as compliments for her efforts. However, his words were taken out of context and twisted. A TikToker named Tito is acting badly accused Inquisitor of grooming her, a 17-year-old girl. Using carefully edited chat logs and isolated phrases, Tito painted Inquisitor as a predator. The allegations spread like wildfire, and the internet turned against him, damaging his reputation beyond repair. Devastated, Inquisitor stopped posting for weeks. On October 9, 2023, he updated his bio to read, "I want to die," before starting a live stream where only an empty room and glass door were visible. Rocks shattered the silence as his family broke into his home, performing CPR just off-screen. Inquisitor had taken his own. In the aftermath, evidence emerged proving his innocence. Chat logs showed that the editor had attempted to pursue a relationship with Inquisitor, even lying about her age. Inquisitor repeatedly declined her advances and asked her to stop. Messages between Tito and the editor revealed a deliberate plan to frame him and ruin his reputation. Though the truth surfaced too late, Inquisitor is remembered for the positivity he brought to his fans and the internet at large. He was not the villain his detractors made him out to be, but a kind soul who fell victim to malicious deceit. Joe Kelly was photographed with his two sons at Yankee Stadium on September 10, 2001, sharing a joyful moment as they watched the game together. The next day, Kelly tragically lost his life during the attacks on the Twin Towers, where he worked in one of the buildings. In the spring of 2019, British mountaineer Robin Haynes Fisher set out on a journey to summit Mount Everest. Accompanied by his partner Kristen Carrier, the two traveled together as far as Everest Base Camp. From there, Robin continued with an organized trekking group to ascend the mountain. Tragically, he lost his life on the descent due to altitude sickness, exacerbated by severe overcrowding on the mountain. The day before his death, Robin posted a video to Instagram capturing a serene yet haunting moment from his journey. In the clip, the snowy peaks of the Himalayas tower in the background as climbers make their way through the unforgiving terrain. Robin had expressed concerns about the dangers of overcrowding on Everest, an issue that had reached critical levels during the 2019 climbing season. Disturbing images from that year showed long queues of climbers waiting to reach the summit, often stranded in the death zone, where oxygen levels are perilously low. Many climbers ran out of bottled oxygen while waiting, leading to fatal consequences.
Got a bit of a interesting climb coming up here, and up to our left we can see Everest.
Linda Michelita Rogers, a sixth grader at Uplift Williams Preparatory, was full of excitement as she prepared for the All-Star National Championship in Dallas. That morning, she recorded 3 brief but cheerful videos, likely intending to share them with her friends. In the first video, Michelita appears bubbly and eager. "I'm going to get ready," she announces, setting the stage for her morning preparations. The clip captures her enthusiasm for the National Cheerleaders Association event she was preparing to attend. She turns on a small lamp, saying she doesn't want to illuminate the whole room just yet. In the second video, Michelita has progressed in getting ready. The room is brighter now, and she's dressed in a vibrant red short-sleeved t-shirt, layered beneath a long-sleeve black and white cheer uniform adorned with shimmering silver sparkles. She playfully shows off her straightening iron and points to the small braid she started in her hair. The final video, a silent time-lapse, shows Michelita standing in front of a mirror, carefully fixing her hair. As she finishes and steps out of the frame, sudden yellow sparks burst into view, and the screen abruptly goes black. In an instant, a natural gas explosion obliterated her home. Amid the wreckage, her family later discovered her phone, remarkably unharmed, preserving the heart-wrenching final moments of her preparations for what should have been a joyous day. This photo captures the final moments of a young rooftop daredevil's life. Andrei Retrovsky, a 17-year-old Russian teenager, had built a reputation for posing in extreme and dangerous situations. His passion for risk-taking led him to hang from rooftops, balance precariously on the edges of tall buildings, and stand on slippery metal scaffoldings, all for the thrill and the photos. Tragically, his dangerous hobby ultimately cost him his life when he fell from the roof of a 9-story building. Andrei was not alone in such reckless pursuits. Similar incidents have become alarmingly common in Russia. In response to these tragedies, the Russian government attempted to curb such behavior by launching a safety campaign, but it proved largely ineffective as it failed to gain public attention. James Dean hours before his crash. Benazir Bhutto, Pakistan's first female prime minister, was assassinated on December 27, 2007, after addressing a political rally in Rawalpindi. The final photo of her alive was taken moments before the attack, as she waved to her supporters from the sunroof of her vehicle. Shortly after, a gunman opened fire, followed by a suicide bombing. The attack claimed at least 20 lives and left dozens injured. This tragic moment occurred during Bhutto's campaign for the upcoming 2008 general elections, a pivotal time as she sought to restore democracy after years of military rule. The assassination raised global outcry and plunged Pakistan into political turmoil. Final footprints of Ifan. In a heartbreaking incident, a 4-year-old boy named Ifan Wedros Owen Jones drowned in a pond, and the coroner ruled it as a terrible accident. What makes this story particularly significant is his autism, which may have prevented him from fully grasping the potential dangers around him. The tragic event unfolded when his mother, Cian Owen, took a short nap on a cold August day in 2022. She could hear her son playing with his uncle on a trampoline, reciting the Fireman Sam theme song. But when she woke up, she realized that her son was nowhere to be found. Her search led to the heartbreaking discovery of her son's body in the pond, and despite the efforts of emergency services, he was pronounced dead. Mysterious L-8 blimp. L-8, later renamed America and famously referred to as the Ghost blimp, represented a United States Navy L-class airship whose entire crew mysteriously vanished over the Pacific Ocean on August 16, 1942. The airship had taken off from Treasure Island, San Francisco, California, and a few hours later, at 11:15 a.m., it reappeared near Ocean Beach, close to Fort Funston. During this reappearance, L-8 briefly touched the ground at Ocean Beach, resulting in damage to the airship before it drifted over San Francisco and eventually crashed on Bellevue Avenue in Daly City. There were no traces of its crew members to be found, and their disappearance remained a baffling mystery. Crash of American Airlines Flight 191. American Airlines Flight 191, a routine domestic passenger flight within the United States, was scheduled to travel from O'Hare International Airport in Chicago, Illinois, to Los Angeles International Airport in California. Tragically, on May 25, 1979, during takeoff from runway 32R at O'Hare, the McDonnell Douglas DC-10 encountered a catastrophic incident wherein its left engine separated from the wing, resulting in a severe loss of control. As a devastating consequence, the plane crashed less than a mile, approximately 1.6 kilometers from the end of the runway. This harrowing accident claimed the lives of all 258 passengers and 13 crew members on board, in addition to causing the loss of 2 lives on the ground. With a total of 273 fatalities, this remains the deadliest aviation disaster ever to have occurred in the United States. Shirley Ann Bridgeford, 24, met Glatman using a dating service called the Patty Sullivan Lonely Hearts Club. Glatman, using the name George Williams, picked Bridgeford up and told her that instead of going dancing as they'd planned, he'd take her on a drive around the countryside. Once at a remote spot, Glatman ordered Bridgeford out of the car and told her to undress. He then photographed and humiliated her before strangling her to death, taking a few more pictures and leaving her body. In May 2015, a Romanian teenager burst into flames after accidentally touching a live while attempting to take the ultimate selfie on the roof of a train. She was identified as Anna Ursu, 18. She with a friend went to a train station in the town of Iasi to take a special selfie. As she lay on top of a train and stuck one of her legs in the air, an electrical field surrounding the overhead cables sent 27,000 volts zapping through her body, causing her to burst into flames. A young man in Mexico City has died after taking a selfie while holding a borrowed, loaded gun. Oscar Otero Aguilar, 21, was drinking with friends before the incident. I heard a gunshot, and then I heard somebody screaming, and realized somebody had been hurt, Aguilar's 57-year-old neighbor Manfredo Paez told Bakersfield. I called the police, and when they arrived, they found that he was still alive. Police on the scene said Aguilar didn't know the gun was loaded. He was waving it around when it accidentally went off, fatally injuring him with a bullet wound to the forehead. Aguilar died in an ambulance on the way to the hospital. On November 13, 2015, The Eagles of death metal were performing in Paris when their concert turned into a nightmare. Around 9:40 p.m., 3 gunmen entered the venue and opened fire on the crowd. The French police killed the attackers, but not before 90 people were killed, including Nick Alexander, the 36-year-old merchandise manager for the band. 3 months later, the band returned to Paris for a tribute concert in honor of those who were killed and injured. Many attendees wore T-shirts honoring their deceased loved ones, while others attended on crutches or using canes. This photo was taken just minutes before the shooting began. Final image of Robin Williams posing with a fan. Harrison Gilkes, a teenager from Canada, faced a life-altering diagnosis at the young age of 16, a rare form of cancer called rhabdomyosarcoma. 2 years later, he learned his condition was terminal. But instead of succumbing to despair, Harrison chose to turn his final chapter into something truly inspiring. In March 2022, he shared his vision on TikTok, a bucket list series where he would pursue experiences he had always dreamed of. I'd like to make a little series, maybe skydiving or just stuff I've always wanted to do. Harrison's heartfelt message resonated deeply with viewers, and his story quickly gained widespread attention. Donations and support poured in, enabling him to embark on incredible adventures. Over the next few months, Harrison lived life to the fullest. From thrilling experiences in the sky to memorable moments on the ground, he made every second count. Along the way, he kept his followers updated, sharing both good news, like periods of slowed tumor growth, and more challenging updates about his health. In August 2022, Harrison celebrated his 18th birthday, a milestone he had not been sure he would reach. His fans, who had been with him every step of the way, noticed his absence from social media that day and grew concerned when updates ceased for weeks. On November 17, 2022, Harrison returned to TikTok with difficult news. The chemo I did all summer didn't really work. The tumor kept progressing, and it spread to my hip too. Despite the grim prognosis, Harrison remained determined to complete as much of his bucket list as possible. In his final months, he traveled the globe, experiencing everything from mountain peaks to the beaches of Cancun. He spent meaningful time with loved ones and even met members of his favorite hockey team. On March 22, 2023, Harrison posted his last TikTok. In a heartfelt message, he shared his final thoughts. "The chances of me going home are very slim. I'll probably be in the hospital for the remainder of whatever time I have left. It's been a great ride with you guys on the bucket list. I love you all. Thank you for the support." Shortly after this post, Harrison passed away. Carl Williams was an Australian convict charged with drug trafficking and murder, and a central figure in a series of gangland killings in Melbourne. Williams was serving a life in prison when this photo was taken. The person sat down reading a newspaper is Williams himself, unaware of fellow convict Matthew Charles Johnson approaching from behind. Shortly after this CCTV footage still was taken, Williams was beaten to death by Johnson using the stem of an exercise bike. In November 2016, Chapecoense defender Felipe Machado, along with his teammates from Brazil's Chapecoense Football Club, boarded a flight that would tragically become their last. The team was traveling to Medellin, Colombia, to compete in the finals of the Copa Sudamericana, a historic moment for the small club. As the team settled into the aircraft, Machado turned on his smartphone's front-facing camera and began recording a video, capturing the upbeat atmosphere among the players. The footage shows the team joking and laughing, their spirits high as they prepared for takeoff. Unbeknownst to them, this would be their final flight. The plane, Lamia Flight 2933, was carrying 72 passengers and 9 crew members. Moments after takeoff, disaster struck. The aircraft lost radio communication and plummeted towards the ground, crashing into a hillside near Medellin. The crash claimed the lives of nearly everyone on board, with only a few survivors. Hiroshima, just before the bomb was dropped, on August 6, 1945, the U.S. flew the Enola Gay over the Japanese city of Hiroshima. The crew dropped a 5-ton nuclear bomb, nicknamed Little Boy. The bomb's immediate impact killed over 80,000 people within a 4-square-mile radius, and thousands more would later die from radiation poisoning. This photo was taken just before the bomb was released. In Russia, a dangerous internet trend has emerged among teenagers, taking selfies in perilous locations. These thrill-seekers scale scaffolding, pylons, and bridges, risking their lives for a photo to share online. Xenia Ignatieva was one such teenager, pushing the boundaries of the extreme selfie craze, tragically with fatal consequences. Just 1 month shy of her 18th birthday, ventured onto a railway bridge in Kresno-Gardensky to capture a daring selfie. As she positioned herself for the shot, she lost her footing and fell. In a desperate attempt to save herself, she reached out to grab onto the bridge's wires, unaware that they carried 1,500 volts of electricity. The powerful jolt electrocuted her before she plunged to her death. Xenia's story became a cautionary tale, highlighting the lethal consequences of prioritizing thrill-seeking over safety. The Hindenburg, moments before it exploded, took flight on May 6, 1937. At the time, it was the most luxurious airship and could carry 100 passengers. Powered by 7 million cubic feet of hydrogen, a gas leak led to its catastrophic explosion, resulting in 36 deaths. This photo was captured just minutes before the disaster. This photo, taken in 2002, captures a haunting moment as a group of Chechen villagers peer up from a pit they were forced to dig themselves. Tragically, this very hole was destined to become their burial site. The atrocity unfolded during a period of intense conflict involving Chechen rebels. Allegations suggest that soldiers raided nearby villages, abducting locals to be tortured, killed, or in some cases ransomed back to their families. The violence left a grim legacy, with multiple mass graves discovered in the region. Among these discoveries were pits filled with dismembered remains, many of which bore signs of being destroyed with explosives. Ramon Gonzalez, who went by the stage name Jadiel El Tsunami, was a Puerto Rican reggaeton singer. Particularly in South America, he had a large fan base, with millions of listeners worldwide. Early in 2014, he was involved in a motorbike crash with another vehicle, resulting in his death at age 27. The photo was taken by him only moments before the accident killed him. Curtis was only 23 years old when he became a famous figure in the post-punk scene. Joy Division had just released their first album, Unknown Pleasures, 1979, which talked about feelings of isolation, anxiety, and existential dread. Their music really connected with people, and it was all thanks to Curtis's poetic lyrics and his intense stage presence. But the very themes that define Joy Division's music also reflected Curtis's own mental health battles. He had epilepsy, a condition that got worse as the band became more popular, and he often had seizures, some of which happened on stage. Adding to the chaos was the pressure of balancing his growing career with his personal life. Curtis married his high school sweetheart Deborah at a young age, and they had a daughter named Natalie in 1979. While Curtis loved his family, his fame and demanding schedule started to put a strain on his relationship with Deborah. He became more and more distant, and his struggles with mental health and epilepsy made things even worse. And to make matters worse, he got involved in an extramarital affair, which added another layer of emotional conflict. By early 1980, Joy Division was getting ready for their first tour of North America, which was a big deal that could make them famous all over the world. But the thought of the tour was weighing heavily on Curtis, who was worried that his health would make it impossible to perform. His condition had gotten so bad that even everyday things were a struggle. On May 18, 1980, just hours before the band was supposed to leave for America, Curtis took his own life in his home in Macclesfield. His death shocked the music world, and it cut short the life of a man whose talent and vision were just starting to be realized. In this final photo of him, Ian Curtis is posing with his infant daughter 5 days before taking his life. In 1994, a tragic accident occurred at Fairchild Air Force Base involving a B-52 Stratofortress. The aircraft, piloted by Lieutenant Colonel Arthur Bud Holland, was performing risky aerial maneuvers over Washington state. During one such maneuver, Holland attempted an abrupt and sharp turn at a dangerously low altitude. This action caused the massive plane to lose lift and stall mid-air, leading to a catastrophic crash. The disaster claimed the lives of all 4 crew members on board. On the night of March 8, 1997, Christopher Wallace, better known to the world as the Notorious B.I.G., attended a party at the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles. It was a celebration for the Soul Train Music Awards, and the venue was packed with industry heavyweights, fans, and friends alike. For Biggie, life was at a crossroads. At just 24 years old, he had already cemented himself as one of the greatest rappers of all time. His debut album, Ready to Die, had skyrocketed him to fame, and his second album, Life After Death, was set to drop in just weeks. Yet he was no stranger to tension. The East Coast-West Coast rivalry, amplified by the media and fueled by his complicated relationship with Tupac Shakur, loomed large. Still, Biggie seemed optimistic that night, cracking jokes and brushing off concerns about his safety. As the party began to wind down in the early hours of March 9th, Biggie and his entourage decided to call it a night. He climbed into the passenger seat of a black GMC Suburban, his friends following in other vehicles. The convoy pulled onto Wilshire Boulevard, heading back to their hotel. It was a quiet night, and the streets of Los Angeles were mostly empty. But that calm would be shattered in moments. While stopped at a red light on Fairfax Avenue, a dark Chevrolet Impala pulled up alongside Biggie's vehicle. The window rolled down, and within seconds, a barrage of bullets ripped through the night air. 4 shots struck Biggie, and his friends frantically rushed him to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. Despite their efforts, the doctors were unable to save him. Christopher Wallace was pronounced dead at 1:15 a.m. The world had lost one of its brightest stars. In this photo, Biggie is seen alive for the last time, minutes before he was killed in a drive-by shooting. Jim Morrison was the lead singer of The Doors, a band famous in the 1960s for its unique sound and hit songs like Light My Fire and Riders on the Storm. Known for his wild lifestyle, he was both admired and troubled. The last photo of Jim, taken in Paris in 1971, shows him with his girlfriend Pamela Corson. Just days later, on July 3, 1971, he died at 27. The exact cause of his death is still unclear. This photo reportedly captures a joyful moment at Sandy Hook Elementary School, showing children and staff participating in what appears to be a school activity. The scene is one of innocence and normalcy, with children seated along a hallway, smiling, interacting, and clapping. The teacher stands in the center, guiding the activity. At first glance, it's an ordinary school day filled with youthful energy. On the morning of December 14, 2012, tragedy descended on Sandy Hook Elementary in Newtown, Connecticut, when a 20-year-old gunman entered the school armed with high-powered firearms. The assailant had already killed his mother at home before making his way to the school. In the span of just a few minutes, he opened fire in the classrooms and hallways, killing 26 people, including 20 first-grade children aged 6 and 7, and 6 adult staff members who tried valiantly to protect their students. The massacre ended when the gunman took his own life as law enforcement arrived at the scene. Patrick Swayze, a Hollywood icon known for his roles in Dirty Dancing and Ghost, was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer in early 2008. Despite the grim prognosis, he fought the disease with determination, undergoing treatment while continuing to work on his TV series, The Beast. Swayze's resilience and optimism inspired many, but his illness took a visible toll. The last known photo of Patrick Swayze, taken in 2009, shows him wearing a cap and earpiece, looking noticeably thin and frail. His once vibrant and robust appearance had been deeply affected by the aggressive cancer and treatment. Just a few months later, on September 14, 2009, Swayze passed away at the age of 57. The world was stunned and heartbroken when news broke of Liam Payne's untimely death. The 31-year-old former member of One Direction fell from his third-story room at the Casa Sur Hotel in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Despite emergency services arriving quickly, Liam's life ended tragically at 5:11 p.m. While the exact events leading to his death remain unclear, an unsettling picture has emerged from the accounts of witnesses. Among them is a 28-year-old hotel guest, identified only as Rebecca, who may have been one of the last people to speak to Liam. Rebecca, an IT consultant from Washington, D.C., described their brief but chilling interaction and the erratic behavior Liam displayed in his final moments. Rebecca recalled noticing the singer in the hotel lobby around 4:26 p.m., just over half an hour before emergency services were called. Liam, who had been due to check out that morning, seemed agitated. Hotel staff were visibly tense, and Rebecca soon realized why. Liam approached her and her friend, inviting them into the elevator with his group, which included 2 women and a British man named Roger. Rebecca declined, opting to wait for the next lift, but Liam's behavior unsettled her. At one point, he grabbed a woman from his entourage by the throat and pretended to choke her. Although the act seemed playful to some, Rebecca and her friend found it disturbing. Liam returned to the lobby 10 minutes later, carrying his laptop. He lay on a couch, going through his emails, but something triggered a dramatic outburst. According to Rebecca, he angrily shouted before violently smashing his laptop on the ground. When Rebecca cautiously asked if he was okay, Liam responded with a heartbreaking admission. "I used to be in a boy band. That's why I'm so messed up." Rebecca described Liam's demeanor as erratic and unfocused. His pupils were dilated, and his actions were aggressive, though not directed at anyone in particular. She speculated that he might have been under the influence of drugs. The situation in the hotel escalated as staff grew increasingly concerned. Rebecca noticed them making phone calls, likely to emergency services. Shortly after, Liam stumbled back into the lobby and fell flat on his face. Staff and Roger helped him back to his room, but tragically, this was one of the last times anyone saw him alive. Minutes later, chaos erupted as police and paramedics arrived. Rebecca and her friends were horrified to learn that Liam had fallen from his balcony. Some guests witnessed the fall and initially thought he might have survived, but the devastating reality soon set in when they saw his body in the courtyard. As news of Liam's death spread, fans gathered outside the hotel to pay their respects, singing his songs and leaving flowers. One fan even attempted to communicate with him using an Ouija board. Liam's death was later confirmed to be caused by multiple injuries from the fall, leading to internal and external hemorrhaging. The autopsy ruled his death accidental. The bald man with his eyes closed and frowning in the center of the photo is former U.S. President Gerald Ford. The reason he's scared with his eyes closed is because this photo was taken at the exact moment gunshots were heard during an assassination attempt. Due to the lack of accuracy in the gun's aim, it missed his head by about 10 centimeters. There was an assassination attempt 17 days later. At that time, he survived because the assassin forgot to put a bullet in the pistol chamber. Since then, former President Ford wore a bulletproof jacket at all times. On January 7, 2012, a tragic hot air balloon accident unfolded in Carterton, New Zealand, a small rural town on the North Island. It was meant to be a serene early morning adventure with 11 people on board, a pilot and 10 passengers, looking forward to breathtaking views of the Wairarapa region. Unfortunately, the trip ended in disaster. As the balloon descended near a landing site, it collided with power lines. Witnesses reported seeing the balloon become entangled, causing an electric arc to ignite the basket. Flames quickly engulfed the balloon, leaving the pilot and passengers with little chance of escape. Horrifyingly, some passengers attempted to jump from the burning basket, but they were too high off the ground to survive. Moments later, the entire balloon plummeted, crashing into a field below. All 11 people on board were killed in the tragedy. The victims included couples celebrating special occasions and tourists enjoying a once-in-a-lifetime experience. The pilot, Lance Hopping, was a highly experienced balloon operator with a good safety record, adding to the shock and heartbreak of the incident. Investigations by New Zealand's Transport Accident Investigation Commission revealed that the balloon had likely struck the power lines due to the pilot's misjudgment during the landing. It was also discovered that the pilot had traces of cannabis in his system, which raised concerns about whether this impaired his judgment. On September 7, 1996, Tupac Shakur was in Las Vegas, sitting in the passenger seat of a white Cadillac with Suge Knight driving. A fellow rapper took this photo, and just moments later, the Cadillac was shot at, leading to Tupac's death. This is the last photo ever taken of him. Reagan Kelly, a 28-year-old building surveyor from Selsdon, South London, embarked on a month-long adventure to Thailand at the end of December 2024. He had always been an experienced traveler, known for his sociable nature and easy ability to make friends. Reagan arrived in Thailand on December 30th, excited to explore the country, and was staying at the popular Mad Monkey Hostel on the island of Phuket. On January 3rd, Reagan went missing under mysterious circumstances. He had been seen in a bar at the hostel, engaging in a long conversation with an unknown man who appeared to be a fellow tourist. However, CCTV footage shows the situation taking a turn when the conversation became heated, with Reagan visibly upset. In the footage, he abruptly stands up, leaves the bar, and heads towards Patong Beach, with the other man following close behind. The next morning, at around 10 a.m., a water sports instructor discovered a naked body in the sea. Reagan's family was devastated to confirm it was his body. The sudden disappearance and the lack of answers left his loved ones desperate for closure. His sister, Lori Blackall, traveled to Thailand along with their father to investigate further and to meet the mysterious man who was last seen with Reagan. Lori expressed deep concern over the circumstances, noting that while the police suggested it might have been an accident, the situation didn't sit right with her. Reagan had been wearing shorts, a Mad Monkey Hostel t-shirt, a black baseball cap, and a crossbody bag when he was last seen running towards the beach. When his body was found, however, he was naked, and none of his belongings, including his phone, were present. The family has been in constant contact with Thai authorities, hoping to find more clues to piece together what happened in those final hours. Lori described her brother as a sociable and calm person who wasn't prone to reckless behavior. She described the argument with the mystery man as more verbal than physical, suggesting the two could have been having an intense but not violent conversation. Lori is now calling on the man to come forward with more information about their conversation and why Reagan seemed so upset. She fears that the case may be brushed aside as an accident without further investigation. A Just Giving fundraiser has been set up to help bring Reagan's body back to the UK for a second post-mortem, as Lori and her family seek the truth. The tragedy has left Reagan's family, friends, and loved ones in shock, as they try to make sense of what happened to the happy and loving man who had so much left to experience in life. Reagan had messaged his sister and dad regularly since he landed on December 30th, sharing pictures of what he was getting up to. Judith Dull, an aspiring model, was murdered by glamour girl killer Harvey Glattman. Glattman moved to Los Angeles, where he posed as a professional photographer to lure girls into his hotel room with the promise of work. There, he tied them up, photographed them, and eventually killed them and dumped their bodies. Judith, 19 and divorced, showed up at Glattman's under the premise that she would pose for a crime fiction magazine. Dan Wallach, a 41-year-old Air Force lieutenant colonel, was an experienced hiker and family man who tragically lost his life after summiting two 14,000-foot peaks, Kit Carson Peak and Challenger Point, in southern Colorado. Wallach, who spent part of his youth in Colorado and was stationed in Colorado Springs with his wife and two young children, went missing on Wednesday after contacting his family to inform them he had successfully reached the summits. It was the last time they heard from him. Search efforts were launched when Wallach failed to return, with multiple agencies, including Custer County Search and Rescue, CCSAR, and Fremont Search and Rescue, joining ground and aerial operations. Despite their efforts, Wallach's body was found in challenging terrain on Sunday, marking the second recovery in this area in 2023. CSAR noted that all fatalities in the region since 2017 have involved hikers who ventured off established trails and were traveling alone. They urge hikers to follow safety precautions, including not hiking solo, staying on marked paths, and carrying essential gear. A GoFundMe page has been created to support Wallach's grieving family, who now face life without a beloved husband and father. Colette Moreno was on the way to the Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri. Colette snapped a picture of herself and her friend, Ashley Theobald, who was driving the car. Moments later, a lorry appeared and fumes were making Colette cough extensively, as she had suffered from asthma. Ashley knew about her friend's medical condition, so she attempted to pass the truck, but another truck was coming and she ended up hitting it. Ashley lived through the ordeal, but the bride-to-be did not survive. Heartbroken Chinese girl on a rooftop. In the 10 photos that Jojo Tsai posted to her Instagram account before going to the roof of a building, she accused her boyfriend of lying to her and about his sincerity towards their relationship. She accused her boyfriend of lying to her and about his sincerity towards their relationship. On her Instagram photos, she wrote how her boyfriend lied about saying that he wanted to marry her and have children with her, but later backed out, saying that his mother would never agree to their marriage. In another post, she also wrote, "After I'm gone, I will haunt you. I will never be apart from you again." Her final photos also included a photograph of her ex-boyfriend, as well as a photo of her burning stuff from their relationship on her bed. This is the last photo of Jojo Tsai sitting on the building's edge.